I was folding Michael's work shirts when the words left his mouth. You should be grateful I even stay in this marriage. The shirt slipped from my hands, falling onto the bed in a wrinkled heap. Time seemed to stop. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might crack through my ribs. I turned slowly to face him. He wasn't even looking at me. He was scrolling through his phone, legs stretched out on the couch like he'd just commented on the weather. Casual. Careless. Like he hadn't just shattered something fundamental between us. What? My voice came out smaller than I intended. He glanced up, irritation flickering across his face. You heard me, Felly. I could have left years ago. You should appreciate that I didn't. The humiliation burned through me like acid. 7 years of marriage. 7 years of cooking his meals, managing his schedule, supporting his career moves, raising our daughter mostly alone. And this was my reward? Being told I should be grateful he tolerated me? I wanted to scream. To throw something. To demand he take it back. But something stopped me. Instead, I picked up the shirt, smoothed it carefully, and placed it on the bed. Then I walked out of the room without a single word. I locked myself in our bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed with my hands shaking. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped steel bands around my lungs. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not yet. Not while he could hear. My mind raced backward through our marriage. Every small comment that had stung. Every time he'd corrected me in front of friends. Every dismissive wave when I tried to share my feelings. The pattern was suddenly crystal clear, like someone had switched on a light in a dark room. You're too emotional. You're overreacting. Can't you just be happy? Other wives don't complain this much. Each phrase was a tiny cut that I'd bandaged and hidden, telling myself it wasn't that bad. That marriage required sacrifice. That love meant endurance. But this? Be grateful I stay? That wasn't love. That was control disguised as commitment. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister, "Coffee tomorrow?" I stared at it, realizing I'd been slowly disappearing from my own life, shrinking myself to avoid Michael's criticism. That version of me, the grateful, quiet, accommodating one, was done. Finished. I didn't know what came next, but I knew it wouldn't include begging for basic respect. I made a decision that night, sitting alone in the darkness. No more explaining myself into exhaustion. No more justifying my feelings or apologizing for having needs. No more performing gratitude for the bare minimum of him not abandoning me. Michael expected certain reactions from me. He knew how to handle my tears, my anger, my desperate attempts to make him understand. He'd learned over 7 years exactly which buttons to push and which words would make me crumble into apologies. But what he didn't have a script for was silence. Strategic, purposeful, powerful silence. I would stop engaging in his games. Stop defending myself against accusations that were designed to keep me small. Stop explaining why his words hurt, only to have him tell me I was too sensitive. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. My eyes were red but clear. Determined. For the first time in years, I felt something shift inside me, not breaking, but hardening. Like soft clay becoming stone. When I returned to the living room, Michael was still on the couch, still on his phone. You done being dramatic? He asked without looking up. I walked past him to the kitchen, started preparing dinner, and didn't respond. His eyes followed me, confused by my silence. The next morning, Michael complained about his coffee. This tastes different. What did you do to it? He stood by the counter, holding the mug like evidence of my failure. I was getting ready for work, applying lipstick carefully in the hallway mirror. I didn't respond. Didn't explain that I'd made it exactly the same way I always did. Didn't apologize or offer to make a fresh pot. I just capped my lipstick, grabbed my bag, and headed for the door. Feli? I'm talking to you. His voice carried irritation and confusion. I paused at the door, looked back at him calmly, and said simply, "Have a good day, Michael." Then I left. In the car, my hands gripped the steering wheel tight. My heart raced, but underneath the anxiety was something else. Something that felt like strength. For years, I'd responded to every complaint, every criticism, every casual cruelty. I'd explained, justified, apologized, performed. Not anymore. His dissatisfaction with coffee wasn't my emergency. His need for attention wasn't my responsibility. I was done being his emotional manager, his personal assistant, his audience. The silence felt strange on my tongue, but also right. Like I'd finally found a language that couldn't be twisted or dismissed. At work, I found myself thinking about all the years I'd spent trying to earn Michael's approval. Remembering how I'd adjusted my clothes because he said I dressed too casually. How I'd stopped seeing certain friends because he found them annoying. How I'd quit my book club because Thursday nights were inconvenient for his schedule. I'd rearranged my entire life around his preferences, his moods, his needs. And for what? To be told I should be grateful he stayed? As if his presence in my life was some generous gift instead of a mutual commitment we'd both made? The weight of it hit me during lunch. I sat alone in my car, eating a sandwich, and realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd done something just because I wanted to. Every choice, every decision, every moment had been filtered through the question, will this upset Michael? My coworker Amara knocked on my window, startling me. You okay? You look like you're processing something heavy. I rolled down the window. I'm realizing some things. About my marriage. She leaned against the car. Good things or bad things? I thought for a moment. True things. Which feel bad right now but might lead somewhere better. She squeezed my shoulder. Sometimes truth hurts before it heals. You're stronger than you think, Feli. That evening, our daughter's school sent a reminder about parent-teacher conferences. Normally, Michael would tell me which time worked for him, and I'd adjust my schedule accordingly. This time, I chose the slot that worked best for me and confirmed it. When Michael got home, he asked about it. What time is the conference? I was cooking dinner, stirring pasta sauce. Tuesday at 4. He frowned. That doesn't work for me. I have a meeting. I nodded, still stirring. Okay. I'll go alone then. His frown deepened. You didn't ask what worked for my schedule. I looked at him calmly. You're right. I didn't. If you can make it, great. If not, I'll handle it. But we always go together, he said, sounding genuinely confused. I turned back to the stove. We always went when you decided the time. This time, I decided. You can adjust if it matters to you. The shift was subtle but seismic. I'd made a decision that prioritized my schedule, not his. And I hadn't asked permission, hadn't apologized, hadn't explained myself into exhaustion. His discomfort with this new dynamic was visible on his face, and honestly, it felt good. Over the next few days, I felt something growing inside me. Not anger, exactly. More like clarity. For years, I believed that being a good wife meant accommodating, compromising, bending. That love required making myself smaller so Michael could feel bigger. But what I'd actually been doing was enabling him. Teaching him that my feelings didn't matter. That my time was less valuable than his. That I would always be the one to adjust, apologize, accommodate. And he'd learned the lesson well. Now, I was unlearning my part in that dynamic. I stopped checking his mood before speaking. Stopped tiptoeing around topics that might set him off. Stopped managing his emotions like they were my job. The mental energy this freed up was astonishing. I started small. Reading before bed instead of watching whatever show he chose. Choosing a restaurant I liked when we went out. Declining to explain my choices when he questioned them. Each tiny act of autonomy felt revolutionary. Michael noticed. I caught him watching me with this puzzled expression, like I was a stranger wearing his wife's face. Good. Let him be confused. Confusion meant he was finally paying attention. Saturday night, Michael's friends came over for dinner. I'd cooked a nice meal, set the table properly, played the perfect hostess. During the meal, Michael made one of his typical comments. "Feli's been acting strange lately. Moody or something." He said it with a laugh, expecting everyone to join in. Expecting me to either defend myself or laugh it off like I always did. I did neither. I simply continued eating, face calm, saying nothing. The silence stretched out, awkward and heavy. His friend David shifted uncomfortably. "Strange how?" Michael waved his hand dismissively. "Just distant. Not herself." Still, I said nothing. Just took a sip of water, maintained my composure. Michael's wife joke hung in the air, exposed and mean without my usual reaction to soften it. David's wife, Chioma, looked at me with understanding in her eyes. Maybe she's just tired of certain things. Michael's face reddened. What's that supposed to mean? Chioma shrugged. Just that everyone has limits. Even patient people. The rest of dinner was tense. Michael tried to dominate conversation, but the earlier comment had shifted something. His friends were seeing him differently. And he felt it. When they left, Michael turned to me accusingly. "You embarrassed me." I started clearing plates. "I didn't say a word, Michael. You embarrassed yourself." The following week, our washing machine broke. Michael discovered it Monday morning when he needed clean clothes for work. "Feli, the washing machine isn't working." He stood in the laundry room, holding a damp shirt, looking at me expectantly. I was making breakfast, scrambling eggs calmly. "Okay." He waited. "Well, are you going to call someone?" I flipped the eggs. Am I the only one capable of calling a repairman? He stared at me. "You always handle this stuff." "I always handled it because you never did," I corrected gently. "But you're perfectly capable. The repair company's number is on the fridge." His mouth opened and closed. "But I have to work today." I nodded. "So do I. Yet somehow, when things break, it becomes my job to fix them." "Why is that?" He couldn't answer. The entitlement was so ingrained he'd never even questioned it. I plated the eggs. "You can call during your lunch break. Or wait until evening. Either way, you're handling it this time." I left for work, leaving him standing there looking lost. By evening, the washing machine was fixed. Michael looked exhausted when I got home. That took 3 hours on the phone, waiting for them to show up, dealing with payment. "Yes," I said simply. "It usually does." "Welcome to my world, Michael." Friday evening, we attended his colleague's birthday party. I wore a dress I'd bought for myself, bold red, more daring than my usual style. Michael raised his eyebrows but said nothing. At the party, his boss approached us, smiling warmly. "Feli, you look stunning. And I hear congratulations are in order. Michael mentioned you got that promotion?" I smiled. "Thank you. Yes, I'm managing the new regional accounts now." His boss beamed. "That's impressive. You must be working some long hours." Michael interjected quickly, "Yeah, it's been tough juggling everything at home." The comment was meant to diminish me, to suggest I was neglecting duties. His boss frowned slightly. Well, partnership means supporting each other's careers. You must be helping more at home. Michael's smile faltered. Of course. But his boss's wife, who'd been listening, added, good. Michael's lucky to have such an accomplished wife. You should be proud. The emphasis on should be felt intentional, like she sensed the dynamic. Throughout the evening, people approached me with congratulations, networking opportunities, genuine interest in my work. Michael grew quieter with each conversation. In the car going home, he was sullen. You really played up that promotion tonight. I didn't play up anything, I replied calmly. I simply accepted congratulations. Does that bother you? He didn't answer, but his silence spoke volumes. One evening, I was reading in bed when I overheard Michael on a call with his brother. I don't know what's going on with Feli. She's just different. Cold, maybe. His brother's voice was muffled through the door. Then Michael continued, she doesn't do half the things she used to. I actually have to remember stuff myself now. There was a pause, then Michael said quietly, maybe. I guess I didn't realize how much she was handling. Like, everything. I thought that stuff just happened. His brother must have said something pointed, because Michael went quiet for a long moment. You think I took her for granted? Michael asked, voice smaller. Another pause. Yeah. Maybe you're right. She did say something about gratitude. He trailed off. I heard the shift in his tone, not quite remorse, but definitely recognition. I didn't reveal I'd heard. But knowing he was starting to see, even privately, what he'd been doing felt significant. Not enough for forgiveness yet. Not nearly enough. But it was acknowledgement. A crack in his wall of entitlement. And cracks, I was learning, were where light got in. I implemented a new system silently. Tasks I'd always handled. I stopped doing Michael's share. Bills that came in? I left them visible for him to see. His appointments? He could track them. His mother's birthday? His responsibility to remember. The consequences rolled in steadily. His mother called, confused about why he hadn't acknowledged her birthday. He'd forgotten his dentist appointment and got charged a missed fee. His favorite pants weren't clean because I only washed my own clothes now. Each small failure was a lesson in disguise. I wasn't being petty or vindictive. I was simply withdrawing the invisible labor that had kept his life running smoothly while he criticized how I did it. He'd never noticed it because it was seamless. Now, in its absence, he was drowning. One night, surrounded by unpaid bills and unwashed dishes, he looked at me helplessly. How did you manage all of this? I looked up from my book. The same way you're managing it now. Except I did it without complaining about how you should be grateful. He absorbed that, the truth settling uncomfortably. I watched understanding dawn slowly on his face. This wasn't punishment. This was reality. The reality of what I'd been carrying alone while he coasted. Michael's parents invited us for Sunday lunch. His father asked about our plans for our upcoming anniversary. Michael started talking about a restaurant he wanted to try, making plans without asking my input. His mother looked at me expectantly. The old Feli would have smiled and agreed. The new Feli said calmly, actually, I'd prefer somewhere else. That restaurant doesn't interest me. Michael's face showed surprise, then irritation. But it's supposed to be amazing. For you, maybe, I replied evenly. I don't like that type of cuisine. There are other options we both might enjoy. His father nodded slowly. Compromise is important. What about that new place by the lake? Italian? I smiled. That sounds lovely. Michael's jaw tightened, but he couldn't argue without appearing unreasonable. His mother watched the exchange with interest. Later, she pulled me aside in the kitchen. "You're standing up for yourself more." "Good." I looked at her, surprised. She patted my hand. "My son can be difficult. Like his father was before I taught him better. Don't let him steamroll you, Feli. You're too valuable for that." Her words hit deep. Even his own mother saw it. And approved of my resistance. That validation felt powerful, like someone had finally witnessed what I'd been experiencing alone. Lying in bed that night, I realized something profound. For 7 years, I'd sought Michael's approval like oxygen. I'd shaped myself around his preferences, his moods, his needs. I'd performed and adjusted and apologized, hoping he'd finally see my worth. But his approval wasn't required for my worth to exist. I was valuable regardless of whether he acknowledged it. My competence didn't need his validation. My feelings didn't need his permission to matter. This realization felt like breaking chains I hadn't known I was wearing. The empowerment wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, deep, and steady. Like roots growing strong underground where no one could see. I'd stopped performing for an audience that never applauded. And in that space, I'd found something better than his approval, my own. I thought about the woman I used to be. Always explaining, justifying, seeking external validation. She'd been exhausted, diminished, half alive. The woman I was becoming spoke less but stood firmer. Needed less but demanded more. And somehow, that transformation was both terrifying and exhilarating. Michael shifted beside me, probably sensing the distance between us even in sleep. Good. Let him sense it. Let him feel the absence of my constant accommodation. Maybe then he'd understand what he stood to lose. The next week, our car started making strange noises. I noticed it Tuesday morning but said nothing. By Thursday, Michael heard it too. "The car sounds weird. Did you take it to the mechanic?" I was getting ready for work, doing my makeup carefully. "No." He waited for explanation. When none came, he asked, "Why not?" "It could be serious." I applied mascara steadily. "Because the car is registered in both our names. You have access to the same phone and the same mechanic. If you're concerned, handle it." His frustration was visible. "But you always deal with car stuff." I capped the mascara, turned to face him. "Not anymore. You're an adult, Michael. You can make a phone call, describe a noise, schedule an appointment. I'm not your secretary." I left him standing there. That evening, the car was at the mechanic's. Michael had handled everything himself, the call, the drop-off, arranging a rental. When I got home, he looked simultaneously proud and resentful. It was the timing belt. Could have been catastrophic if we'd ignored it longer. I nodded. "Good thing you handled it." He wanted me to thank him, I could tell. To praise him for doing basic adult tasks. I didn't. Because handling your own responsibilities doesn't deserve a medal. That weekend, I sat Michael down for a serious conversation. Not an argument, a boundary-setting session. "We need to talk." He looked wary. "About what?" I took a breath, centering myself. "First, dismissive comments about me, to me or about me, stop now. If you have a concern, express it respectfully or don't express it at all." He started to interrupt, but I held up my hand firmly. Second, household and life management are shared responsibilities. I'm not your assistant or your mother. You're a grown man capable of managing your own life. His face was reddening, but I continued. Third, my career, my time, and my needs matter equally to yours. I won't shrink myself or my ambitions to make you comfortable anymore. I paused, letting the words sink in. And finally, if you ever again suggest I should be grateful you stay in this marriage, I'll save you the burden and leave." The last sentence landed like a bomb. His eyes widened. "You'd leave? Over words?" I met his gaze steadily. "Over disrespect." "Yes. Because I'd rather be alone and respected than married and diminished." "These aren't requests, Michael. They're requirements." The following weeks tested my resolve. Michael tried small provocations, leaving dishes in the sink, forgetting things, making subtle jabs. Each time, I remained calm, refused to engage, and let natural consequences unfold. Dishes stayed dirty until he needed them and washed them himself. Forgotten tasks meant he faced the consequences: late fees, missed opportunities, uncomfortable phone calls. Small jabs were met with silence or simple statements that was unkind, followed by me walking away. I watched him struggle with tasks I'd made look effortless. Watched frustration crease his face as he navigated things I'd handled invisibly for years. And I felt no guilt. Only a quiet satisfaction that the scales were finally balancing. One evening, I found him staring at the calendar, overwhelmed by appointments, dates, obligations. He looked up at me, something like respect flickering in his eyes. "How did you keep track of all this?" "Carefully," I said simply. "And without anyone telling me I should be grateful for doing it." He flinched at the callback to his words. "Good. Let it sting." Let him feel the weight of what he'd said, what he'd implied, what he'd taken for granted. Gradually, Michael started asking for my input differently. Not demanding or assuming, but genuinely requesting. "Feli, what do you think about this?" He'd show me something, a work decision, a family matter, a household choice, and actually wait for my answer. His mother called one day about a family issue. Michael listened, then said, "Let me talk to Feli and I'll call you back." He found me in the garden and explained the situation. "What's your take?" We discussed it together, weighing options, considering angles. When he called his mother back, he said, "We decided." Using we, not I. His mother sounded pleased. "It's good you're consulting Feli. She has a good head on her shoulders." After the call, Michael seemed thoughtful. "I never really asked your opinion before, did I? I just told you what we were doing." I continued pruning roses. "No, you didn't ask. You announced." He was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry for that. I'm starting to see, you're usually right anyway. I should have been listening all along." It wasn't a complete apology for everything. But it was acknowledgement. Real, genuine acknowledgement. A step forward. I found myself actually enjoying our new dynamic. Not because Michael struggled or because I held power over him, but because I'd reclaimed myself. I made choices without fear. Spoke honestly without anxiety. Existed fully without apology. One Saturday, I told him I was spending the day with Amara. Not asking permission, not checking his plans first, just informing him. He nodded. "Okay. Have fun. I'll take care of things here." The casual acceptance would have been impossible 2 months ago. I met Amara at a spa, and we spent hours getting massages, facials, talking freely. "You seem lighter," she observed. "Like a weight's been lifted." "I finally stopped carrying someone who wouldn't walk beside me," I said. "It's amazing how much energy that frees up." She squeezed my hand. "Proud of you. Not every woman finds the strength to demand better." When I got home that evening, the house was clean, dinner was cooked, and Michael greeted me with a genuine smile. "How was your day?" And he actually listened to my answer. Small changes, but they added up. Respect was being rebuilt, brick by brick. A major opportunity came at work, a chance to lead a regional expansion project. It would mean occasional travel, longer hours, significant responsibility. The old felly would have agonized about how it might inconvenience Michael. The new felly applied immediately. When the offer came through, I told Michael over dinner. His first reaction was concern. That's a lot of time away. What about home? I looked at him steadily. What about it? You're capable of handling things while I'm gone. Something shifted in his expression. Not resentment, but realization. You're right. I am. And you deserve this opportunity. He reached across the table, taking my hand. I'm proud of you, Felly. Really? I searched his face for insincerity, found none. Thank you. I'll need your full support, though. Not just words, actual partnership. He nodded firmly. You'll have it. I promise. The project launched a month later. My first business trip, Michael handled everything at home, our daughter's school runs, meals, bedtime routines. When I called to check in, he sounded tired but genuinely managing. We're good here. Focus on your work. That support meant everything. Not because I needed his permission, but because he was finally showing up as a true partner. At the project's launch party, Michael came as my guest, not the other way around. My colleagues congratulated me, discussed strategy, asked thoughtful questions. Michael stood beside me, supportive but not dominating. My boss pulled me aside. Your husband seems different than I expected. More supportive. I smiled. He's learning what partnership actually means. She nodded knowingly. The good ones eventually do. The ones who truly love you. Later, one of Michael's friends who was there commented, "Man, your wife's really crushing it. You must be proud." Michael's response surprised me. I am. And honestly, I almost lost her by not seeing it sooner. His friend looked curious. What changed? Michael glanced at me across the room. She stopped tolerating my disrespect. Stopped enabling my laziness. She gave me a choice, grow up or lose her. Best wake-up call I ever got. I heard the exchange from where I stood. Those words, that acknowledgement, meant more than any apology. Because it showed real understanding, genuine growth. He wasn't just saying what I wanted to hear. He believed it. The real test came unexpectedly. Michael's company had issues, and suddenly his job security was uncertain. He came home one evening looking devastated, the confidence stripped away. The old power dynamic would have had me scrambling to fix everything while he fell apart. Instead, I sat beside him and held his hand. We'll figure this out. Together. Not I'll handle it, but we'll handle it. He looked at me with red, frightened eyes. I'm supposed to provide. I'm failing. You're not failing, I said firmly. You're facing a challenge. And you're not alone in it. We're partners, remember? That means we handle the hard stuff together too. The words seemed to reach him through his panic. Over the next weeks, I watched him navigate uncertainty with more grace than I'd expected. He updated his resume, networked, interviewed. And he kept up with household responsibilities, refusing to let his crisis become my burden. When he finally secured a new position, better company, better role, he thanked me. You could have panicked or blamed me. You didn't. You stood with me. That meant everything. I smiled. That's what partners do, Michael. What we should have been doing all along. 6 months after Michael's grateful comment, we renewed our vows. Just us, an officiant, and close friends. We wrote new promises, honest ones. Mine, I promised to honor myself enough to expect honor from you. His, I promised to see you, value you, and respect you every single day. and to never again make you feel less than cherished. We both cried during the exchange. These weren't naive promises. These were hard-won commitments from two people who'd nearly destroyed something precious. Afterward, at a small dinner, Michael stood to speak. 7 months ago, I told my wife she should be grateful I stayed. Worst words I've ever spoken. Truth is, I'm the one who should be grateful that she loved me enough to demand better instead of just leaving. His voice cracked. Feli could have walked away. She had every right. Instead, she fought for us by fighting for herself. And that taught me what real partnership looks like. He looked at me, tears streaming. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for showing me how to be better. I stood, hugging him. Thank you for choosing to grow. That couldn't have been easy. He held me tight. Easiest choice I ever made. Because losing you would have been unbearable. We established clear, permanent boundaries after that. Respect was mandatory, non-negotiable, foundational. Dismissive comments resulted in immediate consequences, me leaving the room, ending the conversation, enforcing space until genuine apology came. Equal partnership in everything: finances, childcare, household management, decision-making. My career mattered as much as his. My time was equally valuable. My opinions carried equal weight. These weren't suggestions. They were the terms of our continued marriage. Michael didn't push back or test limits anymore. He'd learned the lesson thoroughly, that I meant what I said, that my boundaries were real, that I would absolutely follow through. The woman who'd tolerated disrespect was gone. In her place stood someone who demanded and received respect. One evening, our daughter asked, "Why are you and Daddy different now?" I thought carefully. We learned to treat each other better. With more respect and kindness. She nodded. I like it better this way. So did I. A marriage shouldn't require constant accommodation from one person while the other coasts. It shouldn't be about gratitude for the bare minimum. It should be partnership, respect, mutual growth. We'd finally found that. And it felt like breathing fresh air after years underground. Today, I live as a completely different woman than the one who stood folding laundry 7 months ago. Not changed in the way Michael once accused, I'd evolved. Strengthened. Clarified who I was and what I required from life and love. I speak my mind without fear. I pursue my ambitions without guilt. I set boundaries without apology. And Michael? He's become the partner I always needed, supportive, respectful, genuinely invested in my happiness as much as his own. Our marriage isn't perfect. We still disagree, still have hard moments, still have to consciously choose respect over comfort sometimes. But the foundation is solid now, built on mutual regard rather than my silent tolerance. Recently, a friend asked what saved our marriage. I thought carefully before answering. I stopped accepting less than I deserved. And he chose to become the man I deserved rather than lose me. She nodded slowly. That took courage. I smiled. It took more courage to tolerate disrespect for 7 years. Walking away from that pattern? That was just self-respect. And it was true. Michael overheard and caught my eye across the room. He mouthed, "I love you." I mouthed back, "I know." Because I did know. Not from his words, but from his consistent actions, his daily choices, his genuine growth. Love wasn't about gratitude for staying. It was about mutual respect, effort, and choosing each other every day. We'd finally figured that out. Together.